Hello and welcome. So we are going to do the posterior leg recipe in Shiatsu today. This is a really exciting day. This is something that we've been working up to. It's the first time you're going to use your knees, and you might think, well, why would I even want to use my knees? And it's just a whole nother tool. Now you've got hands, you've got elbows, and now you've got knees, and later on feet. So it just adds more tools to your toolbox. It is challenging. I hope that you've been stretching your ankles and feet, and so be patient with yourself. It's really important to be patient with yourself. This is one of my favorite days because it's so exciting, and it's the first time you guys are going to be really climbing on top of each other. I also want to say that in your life, when you go out to do Shiatsu, you're going to be doing your own flow. But this flow that we're doing here, there's a few moves that may seem repetitive, but they're helping to build your strength and agility. So, so that's why it's like, why would I want to do that again? Well, we're going to get those ankles and knees and everything going. So with that said, I'm going to begin. And I'm going to begin with just a little bit of crawling. I'm just going to Actually, I'm going to skip crawling and go right into mother hand, sun hand, because part of when you do the whole flow, you've already done that. So I'm going to just do a little bit of mother hand, sun hand on his leg, see how it feels. And usually what I say is really pay attention to what you're feeling with your hands. And if you have anything that's distinct, like something that stands out, remember where it was so that when we go to use your knees, you'll be able to see if you could feel that with your knees. So it's very, very safe to have all kinds of weight on the glutes and all kinds of weight on the hamstrings. You're not really going to hurt anyone here at all. So I want you to play around with regulating, see what your weight is like. See if you can do a light pressure, a medium pressure, and then I'll show you the heaviest pressure that's possible. So you're going to come in on the balls of your feet and place one knee on the glute, one knee on the hamstrings. You really want to keep both of your hands on the body so that if the person, like, all of a sudden there's too much weight, you can immediately lift your knees up without any effort with your hands down. So always keep your hands, all four hands, all two hands. So I'm going to come down. So people can tend to be more sensitive on their gastrocnemius, so you want to be mindful of that. You might need to change your pressure. Again, I've been doing this for more than 20 years, so I can regulate my weight very easily. I can use the lightest of touch with my knees. It's easier to have heavy pressure than it is to have light pressure. I would suggest that you try and work towards having a sensitive light pressure just to be able to do it. So I did tell you that I would do the heaviest one. This is the heaviest that you can do, is you just come up and this is just all my body weight. There's no more. That's it. It's all of me. So, all right. So first we'll do it with the leg down. And now I'm going to come and, I'm just going to have my knee close to the ischial tuberosity. You could be on the glute if you want to, but let's just go there for now. And then I'm going to take this knee and I'm just going to hover over the gastrocnemius, and then put my hand on the front of his ankle, and then I'll get the pressure by leaning my body and pulling the lower leg to my knee. Let me just clarify. When I say knee, that means this whole tool. So some people will say, well, isn't that your tibial tuberosity? Actually, yes, it is. It is my tibial tuberosity. So I'm just calling this whole thing my knee. So I'm going to pick up and lean, and then move up. Now see, I'm just pivoting on the ball of my foot, putting my knee in different positions. And notice that his leg isn't up high. I'm not really pushing with my knee at all. I'm just holding it stable and just leaning. All right. So we've been working on the bladder channel here. Now I'm going to bring the leg out and work on the gallbladder channel. Just want to remind you, the iliotibial tract can be extremely sensitive on some people. And there's also a strike point in the center of it. So beginning with the bladder meridian is going to be a lot easier because you don't have to worry about regulating your weight as much as you do when we go to the gallbladder. But now let me talk about how I'm going to bring his leg out. So to really master Shiatsu, you have to pay attention to a lot of details. You have to support their body the whole time. And so little tiny things, I'm going to come in and use my passive joint movement as a nice transition. I want to get this hand above the knee. So see, I just lifted up and put my hand like that. And now this hand goes on the plantar surface of his foot. So this is how I'm going to hold his leg. And really, I'm just going to pull the knee out a little bit, but I get his leg to move by pushing the foot like that. In my experience, I have found that most people are comfortable at 90 degrees. If you have people that are very flexible, sometimes they like their leg all the way up by their shoulder. But you can always check in and ask. Okay. Now you'll notice that his foot is down quite nicely, down on the floor. If it's not uncommon, sometimes people's legs stay up like this. If that's the case, then you just grab one of your pillows and put the pillow under the ankle. Okay? All right, so now let's take that away because he doesn't need it. So now that the leg is out, I'm going to align my dantian up with his bent knee. So I'm going to come around, and I'm going to have one knee on the thigh and one knee on the fibula. Now here's where you really have to be able to control your weight so that you don't hurt them. I like to have one knee stationary and then do compressions with the other one, different locations. And I can even come up and get gallbladder 30. And if you care, my other knee is on gallbladder 34, if you know your points. And then I'm going to come down, and then I'll work the lower leg. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just hit points. Again, don't worry about these points. I'll just call them out for those people who know what they are. But sometimes I just like to get one knee on gallbladder 30, one knee on gallbladder 34, my thumb is in gallbladder 40, and then my elbow goes into gallbladder 30. And I go in, and I just hold these points and just kind of hang out. It feels really good. All right. So, again, my feet are so used to this. I know that your ankles are burning, your thighs are burning, so be gentle on yourself. Stop when you need to stop. And now I'm going to straighten his legs. So again, make sure everything's supported. I'm going to get, again, above his knee. I'm going to hold his ankle, bring his leg out, and throw in some passive joint movement. All right, here we go. More fun stuff. Okay, so stand up. I hold on to the foot of the leg that I'm working on so that I don't confuse myself on which leg I'm working on, because now I need to come to the opposite side. And once I'm here, I'm just going to take his leg. I want to make sure that his thighs are together. I'm going to hold his foot like a cane and put my hand on the sacrum, and I've got my feet centered on the hamstrings. So I'm going to come in, lift up, and come all the way over. So look at how far I'm over. So let me go back. So you want an even weight distribution on both of the thighs. So one thing that you would do that could possibly hurt someone, sorry honey, is when you have to commit. If you don't commit, so like you're nervous, you're afraid, you're going to squish them, and then you don't commit and you come this far. And then all the weight is on this leg. So it's going to hurt this leg. Okay, so you've got to completely commit and get your knees all the way over. See how they're hanging off? Notice how this foot isn't even on the mat anymore? And then I'm going to shift my hip up. And this hand goes on the upper back, and that allows me to lean. And then I can do compressions on the hamstrings. Yeah. If he was a little bit bigger, I can still do this, but a lot of times I'll rest my foot on the gastroc and do that. And now I want to show you another variation, and that is if you have a very, very small person and you're a very big person, just as an extreme, you may not be able to get both of your thighs across like that. So if their thighs are much shorter and you don't have enough room, you can actually do this with one leg. So I'm just going to come across with one leg, and then what I do is I put this elbow on my thigh and I make a fist, and this is my knee. So I'm going to come in and do compressions like that. So this is if they're much smaller than you are. Just a variation. And then I'm going to come in, and you can roll your knuckles from the heel to the toe. I like to give a really strong dorsiflexion, so sometimes I'll wrap my forearm around and then just really get a strong dorsiflexion there. Or anything else that you want to do on the foot. All right, so to come off, make sure not to put your hand on the low back. Make sure to get your hand on the sacrum and just come off. And now we're going to come down. So here's your opportunity to get comfortable. I like this position. This is my go-to position. If you want to sit with your legs out, just sit in a way that you're going to be happy and comfortable. Maybe you need to stretch your ankles out, whatever you need to do. And I'm just going to use my thumbs, and I'm just going to do compressions, going down from the heel to the toe. Now, I'm actually working on the dorsal surface of the foot at this point. I'm going to be curling my fingertips in and get in between the metatarsal. This is the metatarsals of the fourth and the fifth metatarsal. And then I'm going to pull them apart. So it's a movement kind of like that. Some students remember this. It's kind of the opposite of break the bread and circulatory because you're doing it from the other direction, but the same kind of movement. So then I'm going to go to the next space between 3 and 4, pull them apart. And the next one, 2 and 3, pull them apart. And last one, 1 and 2, pull them apart. All right. So squeeze, roll, and snap the toes. Okay, so this is not tugging on the toe, okay? The sound that you hear, that you're going to hear, is my fingers snapping together. So I curl my index and middle finger together, and his toe is going to be in between my fingers like that. And the trick is to pull up. So before I do that, I'm going to squeeze the toe and roll it around, and then get my 2 fingers in between and snap. Next toe. Squeeze and roll. Snap. If you're first learning how to do it, it's much easier with skin on skin. I can actually do snapping with a sock on usually, not always, but usually, but it's much easier when it's skin to skin. So at this point, we're going to make a transition to the second leg, so you can throw in any moves that you want, any passive joint movement, or whatever it is that you want, and then go to the second side and do the second leg. All right, so now we're going to do a move that, depending on the person who you're working on, their body, there needs to be certain adjustments. So let me just go through the easiest way. So if their back is great, they don't have a tight low back and everything is good, and you pick up their legs and they're pretty flexible, then you can keep their knees together, and then I would bounce. Oh yeah, great example. See how this one bounces closer than this, see that? So then I would cross at the ankles here, and so I put my hands on the top of the feet, and then I come forward. Now, if I had someone that had a tight low back, there's a variation. So I would obviously ask them, how's your back feel today? But if they say, oh, it's like it always is, and you go and you take their heels, so I'm going to ask Brent to intentionally do an anterior rotation as I bring the heels back. So see that? So if I bring the heels in, so now that's telling me, oh wow, something's pulling on the front of the pelvis and it's compressing the low back. So that means that we need to have the knees further apart, okay? And then we might be able to do it this way. But if they really want the stretch, so let's go ahead and do it this way here. And here's a nice little treat for us practitioners. With my hands on the top of the feet, I'm going to curl my toes under, and now I get to have a stretch into my downward facing dog. All right. So you're gonna uncross and recross. I think I already did that, but I'll do it again. So now one more variation. The back is tight, the knees are further apart, cross at the ankles, and now I'm going to reposition myself so that I can come up, and remember that anterior rotation? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands on the sacrum and push down and away. That's why I like this lunge position, because I can push that way. So as I push down, then I can also pull. Sometimes I do it with my leg like that. People really like, some people, even if their back isn't tight, they like this stretch on their low back with the legs together. It's a nice one. Okay. Okay. Now, the next move, everyone's knees need to be out a little more lateral than the hips on everyone. So we just did these stretches. So his heels came all the way to his glutes, okay? So remember that. It's okay if the heels come all the way down to the glutes when you do this next move. So now we're gonna come out, and I'm gonna stand up. So you want your front feet above the pelvis. If they're smaller than you, then your feet may be all the way up by their armpits. So I'm gonna step up, I'm gonna bring the heels together, and the feet out, and then sit down. So you need to commit completely. So I'm not holding on my quads. I'm totally relaxed. He's supporting me. His heels are pretty close to his glutes. Everything is fine. Okay, but now I can come in and do a little bit more work on the back. Presses. I could come in and work on the shoulders a little bit. I could do some points if I wanted to. So the next move is a Cobra stretch. Cobra stretch isn't for everyone. It can compress the lumbar spine, so it may not be appropriate for the person that you're working on. Please say so if you know that this is not good for your back. Please don't let anyone do it to you. It's possible to do a Cobra from this position. Honestly, I don't like doing it that way, but I can show you what, usually I would definitely not do it on him because he's bigger than me. I would only do it on someone that's smaller than I am. So I'm gonna ask you to bring your arms back. And now I'm gonna put the arms on the insides of my legs. Leave that on my hands. And now I'm gonna bring my hands and get the front, the shoulder. And then I'm just going to lift you up a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And then, okay, I'm not pulling him all the way up because he's bigger than me and it would hurt my back. Okay, so that's how you can do it sitting like this. But now I'm going to show you how I do it in my regular practice. So to come out of this position, I just reach in and get his heels and stand up. And now I'm going to bring his thighs together. And my knees need to be below the ischial tuberosity. This is important because my weight is going to anchor his pelvis, okay? And then I'm going to lay my forearms down so he can hold my hands. So in my yoga training, whenever you do a chest expansion, I was always taught that that's the inhale. So when I pull someone up from a Cobra, I ask them to do an inhale, then an exhale, and then I tell them I'm going to pull you up as you inhale while your chest expands. I know some people do it another way. It's just the way that I'm used to. So hold on, hold on. All right, so take a breath in. Okay, I'm going to pull you up. So first I come up, and then I come back. So I want to really get my pelvis forward, and this is a counterbalance. So I'm just using my body weight. Is that okay for you? Mm-hmm. Okay. So then I would slowly come down. All right. So we just did a pretty strong back extension. We're going to stop here in the recipe. I have learned that it's really important to lengthen the low back after you've done an extension. So later on I'm going to show you how to move bodies and move them around, but anytime you do an extension, I always want you to follow it with a flexion. So I'm not going to turn him over, I'm just going to ask him to turn over. Will you please turn over? And then I'm going to bring his knees into his chest to lengthen his low back. And that, what happened was that after this day, I would have so many students come and say, oh, my low back is bothering me. And then finally I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to release it. So even though we haven't got this far in the recipe yet, when you do practice, anytime you do an extension, I want you to finish with a flexion to protect your low back, right? Thank you. That's posterior leg.